Hello guys, Stock Saturday, and I've had a fairly red week off the back of the Deepseek announcements. Was actually last week, but everyone seemed to sort of get very worried about it Sunday and Monday, and yeah, so lost a reasonable amount on Himax Technologies. It sort of recovered a little bit over $10 again, but yeah, the option side got whacked, to be fair. So that has provided sort of most of the loss, down about 8.5%, £43,000. Compared to the S&P, the 5-day I notice on Google sort of gives you from the open on Monday, which isn't sort of strictly true. You sort of take from like Friday to Friday just gone, it's down 1%. So yeah, including that drop, and the Nasdaq is, says 2.28% there, but from Friday it's down 1.36%. So yeah, just the way Google sort of measures it last 5 days from Monday morning. But yeah, so I've done a little bit worse, of course, quite a bit worse. Some of my other stocks took sort of quite a bit of a knock on the Monday. Broadcom, TSMC, fears over Nvidia and all the rest of them, and yeah, sort of have recovered somewhat over the week. Sort of BlackRock doing quite well. Applied Materials really dropped quite hard. That's recovered a little. Vanguard Emerging Markets hit £50 dead, so that's doing reasonably well, always slow gains. And I'm still dripping small amounts of my cash into various stocks. Bought a little bit more Evolution on their news. So why Evolution? Well, they released their Q4 numbers. Surprised to see them sort of go before some of the much larger companies, but fair enough. So yeah, looking at revenue up 12.3% from this quarter last year, 534 million almost euros for the quarter, so pretty good. Some other operating revenues looks like it's to do with sort of payments of acquisitions and things, so they sort of separate that out because it's a one-time event. And yeah, profits, EBITDA margin up to 72.8%, adjusted and all that. So the non-adjusted net profit 60.3%, 377 million euros, which is incredibly good. So yeah, up from last quarter, and for the year 56.2%. So really solid. Still sort of one of the most, as far as I'm aware, one of the most profitable companies in the world, and yeah, very solid. Euro 83 earnings per share. There's some notes from the CEO about cyber attacks in Asia towards their Georgian studio. So they're sort of battling some issues. Live casino doing well. They sort of split out the figures for live events and RNG events. Your sort of computerized, betting against the computer games, and yeah, both doing sort of reasonably well, decent growth. Both sort of, live stuff growing about over 10%, and RNG based games sort of a little bit lower than 10%, 7 or 8%. So yeah, both doing well. Surprised to see live stuff still doing really well. These sort of game shows and I suppose live, blackjack online. You can feel a little bit better about it if you see a person with a physical table. They break it down by region, of course. Europe sort of doing reasonably well, nearly 10% up. Asia sort of flat, exactly flat for the last quarter, and sort of taking a bit of a knock, maybe partly to do with the cyber attacks. North America really doing well, up from 70 million to from 59 million, so pretty solid. Latin America doing quite well, and other areas doing quite well. and everyone is sort of focusing on this regulated markets amount, sort of 220 million up from 189, so that is growing quite strongly. And some people sort of suggesting that the unregulated areas may come into more scrutiny sort of over the next few years, and even taking the possibly very, very harsh route that you should be valuing evolution purely on this regulated market revenue. So that puts them at sort of 27 times earnings, if you like, rather than the sort of 12, 11 that they currently are. And they note customer dependency is quite high. Top 5 customers make up 46%, and their top customer is 13%. But this is business to business stuff, so yeah, that's not the end of the world. A lot of companies, will have top 5 customers being 46% of revenue. It's not as stark as it sounds. And you've got their balance sheet as well. You can't really say anything, but it looks pretty nice. Goodwill, obviously a huge amount. They're very much a growth by acquisition company, which you'll note below. Yeah, everything else looks pretty good. Cash is down a little bit from last year, but 800 million euros, considering you look at the liability side, and it looks very, very healthy. So you've got 800 million in cash and about 1.3 billion in total liabilities, not current and non-current. That isn't debt, that's just total liabilities. So extremely healthy balance sheet. All they've got is sort of lease liabilities, no actual debt. So that's really strong. And they have in notes here where the money is going. So where does 60% profit go? They obviously use some to dividend out and some to buy back shares, but a reasonable amount is growth by acquisition. So Evolution has acquired 100% of Live Spin Holdings, a business-to-business social streaming operator. You can sort of do copy trading with brand, ambassadors, influencers. So, yeah, paid for with cash, 4.8 million euros. They acquired Galaxy Gaming for $85 million, closing in middle of the year. They acquired Arcadia Gaming Solutions. You can see all of these BTG, NLC, sort of various companies. Quite a lot of money spent. But basically, if these are, solid companies, they consider them to be good buys, then I would much rather they be doing that than doing dividends or buybacks, even at the low price, to be honest. Much prefer acquiring a solid business and adding to that revenue, because I don't think people really value companies that are just making a lot of money and piling it all into buybacks. People like to see growth. So, yeah, well done, Evolution. And I'm not piling in, I'm sort of drip feeding money into them, because you do still obviously have that risk of the unregulated markets and people sort of clamping down on all of this. They could lose potentially a lot of revenue. But, yeah, as long as they're sort of making decent money, then I'll continue sort of dripping it in. So that was the only earnings that I've had so far. There's a lot sort of coming out over the next few weeks, of course. But we did have Fresnio production reports, and it looks pretty good, to be fair. They've had 13.2 million ounces of silver compared to 13.88 million last quarter, 13.5 the same quarter last year. So very, very consistent. A little bit from their silver stream sort of little side project. Gold, 203,000 ounces. So that's very, very solid, up 30% from last quarter. Appears to be sort of a little bit of a one-off, and doesn't look like it's going to be carried on going forward, but just take that as a bumper quarter, especially with prices where they are. Should be really good. And then a little bit of lead and zinc, of course. Not, doesn't really make up a huge amount of revenue, but yeah, slightly down on the quarter, quite a bit up from last year. So yeah, it's really solid. Silver, so we note 1.5% up in production on last year, 3.4% up on gold. So yeah, that's very nice. And they give the outlook. So things are coming down. To be fair, they produce an awful lot, but things are going to be sort of coming down. 56 million ounces of silver this year. Next year they're expecting between 49 and 56, and then 2 years after that they're expecting 47 to 43. So if you said sort of the midpoint of these, it's 56 million for the year just gone, 53-ish, and then 50 and 50 in 26 and 27. But that still makes them the largest producer in the world, so pretty happy with that. Gold, sort of similarly, as I say, they've had a bit of a bumper year, 632,000 ounces. Sort of, yeah, again on the midpoints, looking at about 550, 555 in 2025, and then sort of 540 and sort of 565 in 27. But these are good numbers, and if the prices are they're still doing reasonably well, then they probably make more profit in 2025 than 24, despite producing a fair amount less. So pretty happy. So guidance is coming down, for the next sort of few years, but it's not because they're sort of particularly running out. They still have 2.25 billion ounces of silver, which is by far the most of anybody in the world. So incredibly good. Maybe an awful lot of it isn't profitable, but they're basically saying they've got silver for decades. So very nice. And they're giving a little bit of a hint on where earnings are going to sit. So yeah, they're sort of saying cost reductions have been going over this year. The Mexican peso has sort of devalued a little bit, and that's helped out. Gross profit between 1.1 and 1.2 billion dollars, up 135% from 2023. A lot of these numbers are going to be. Profit from continuing operations, $940 million, up more than 500%. So, yeah, for a what are they, $6.3 billion company, 940 million of profit is very, very solid. Free cash flow sort of 835 million, and they expect to have cash and cash equivalents of 1.25 billion. So they're very, very nice. So a little bit of news for Hive Digital. Fairly sort of small position in my ISA, but a very large position in the options account. Sort of hoping this year goes a little bit better than it's been going so far. Obviously has drastically underperformed the market, and certainly underperformed Bitcoin. But yeah, we'll see. They have acquired a mining site from Bitfarms in Paraguay. So they're sort of expanding into Paraguay, and they've bought an additional 200 megawatt mining site from Bitfarms. So they'll be quite Paraguay heavy, after this. This sort of takes their total in Paraguay, should be 300 megawatts upon completion of this acquisition. They've only actually got 130 elsewhere, so there'll be 300 Paraguay and 130 in Canada and Sweden. So very, very heavy Paraguay. This is 80% complete. Phase 1 is 80% complete, expected to be completed by April the 1st, so 2 months today. It's pretty good. Essential infrastructure nearing readiness. Phase 1 will add 6 exahash of capacity by April the 1st, so pretty nice. They expect to have it fully hashing in calendar Q2. And yeah, they'll be assuming remaining payments. Phase 2 expected to be completed by August 31st, so around the time of their other site in Paraguay, and that will add another 6.5 with hydro-cooled ASICs. They're saying net costs to complete the site of 200 megawatts at $400,000 per megawatt, so about $80 million. It's a reasonable amount, and they are sort of fueling this with Bitmain S21 Plus hydro-cooled ASICs, so the very pretty much the very top end. So I guess to be fair, they have lagged behind a reasonable amount, but in sort of 6 months, really, they're going to be going from 6 exahash to 25. Obviously, everyone else has been largely doing their big expansions sort of the last year or two. Hive have waited, and I suppose now get very efficient miners, but will probably be missing most of the bull market. So maybe not the best idea, assuming we have a normal sort of, bull market this year, bear market next year. It might not happen now that we've got the ETFs, but yeah, we'll have to see. So yeah, 80 million to build the rest of the site, and they paid 56 million for this acquisition. Includes the substation and the land and what has already been built, and they're paying 25 million in Q1 this year, and then 31 million over 6 months following closing. So don't have to pay all of it now. They can hopefully pay for this through part of Bitcoin profits. And well, they are saying this will be financed by Hive's existing cash and digital currency balance sheet. So could be selling a reasonable amount of Bitcoin to buy this. They got sort of 2,550 Bitcoin ish. That's sort of $102,000 at the moment. They got 260 million just in Bitcoin. Sort of maybe selling that and expanding hash rate at sort of today's prices isn't the best, or isn't a bad deal really. So I'm quite happy with this. It's not meaning a lot more, not meaning a huge amount more dilution, other than what they're already doing, and quite a big expansion, which shareholders seem to value. But we'll see. Noted a little bit of interesting news as well on the gold side. The UK Bank of England is pushing withdrawal dates out from sort of a few days, what is normally a few days, to between 4 and 8 weeks, because they've sent most of theirs to New York. So people wanting to borrow gold, New York didn't have enough, so London has been sending theirs over to there, and now sort of people wanting theirs out of London can't get it. So yeah, this all sort of seems a little bit shady to me. People have been asking Bank of England Governor Andrew Bailey for his comments on this, and yeah, he said we're not on the gold standard anymore, so it doesn't have any significance for policy in that sense. I think that's a please don't ask me about this sort of response. But we have seen gold sort of come roaring back. Had a fair drop since the election. Obviously, people expecting all manner of things, and yeah, it's now sort of rocketing back up. Some people are saying this is due to tariffs and more sort of inflation expectations, but yeah, it's looking solid. So just taking a look at the news, there wasn't a huge amount of news other than the FOMC really. Monday and Tuesday wasn't really a huge amount up until yeah, the interest rate decision. We all knew this would be almost certainly a hold, which it was, and he sort of came out and was basically not answering a lot. People sort of asking him about tariffs and what he was expecting to do with tariff plans going forward, which of course he says he can't make decisions on the future, and especially wouldn't make decisions on political decisions going forward. And people asked him about Donald Trump's comment that he would be demanding the Fed lower interest rates, and he said that makes no difference to us, but we know it probably would behind the scenes. Yeah, so very uneventful interview, of course. EU unemployment at 6.3%, up slightly, and they did cut down from 3% to 2.75%, so they're very low compared to the US and the UK now, especially with unemployment at 6.3%, not ideal, or yeah, 2.9% for the ECB official rate, and they've sort of got their deposit rates and marginal lending rates sort of slightly higher. And then Friday, jobless claims looked very, very strong. You know, sort of we keep saying it. People expecting some sort of US recession and mass unemployment. Initial jobless claims down to sort of a very, very low level. You don't really see them get below 200,000 for sort of the last few years, really. And 207, continuing claims down, so everyone pretty happy. And the core PCE and PCE numbers, which the Fed go off, released on Friday, all sort of as expectations, 2.8% on inflation, and they seem to be sort of relatively happy with that. You know, they'll say it's making its way towards 2%. I think you would say it probably isn't, but a lot of people saying under 3% is considered fine now, and they will just keep saying that it's making its way towards 2%, kind of ignoring everything. So just checking in on the portfolio, you sort of had a bit of a drop in Bitcoin sort of at the death on Friday, so that sort of knocked the miners down a little bit. They've sort of been, you know, in a similar range recently, so not too much happening there. Gold and silver doing quite well though. Equinox back above $6, and Coeur Mining sort of doing reasonably well. Fresnillo up to £7.11 now. So yeah, looking good. Pan American Silver looking quite good as well, $23.21, and KGHM sort of still hovering around a similar level. But I did buy some more KGHM, so pretty much doubled my position in the invest account. Sort of copper looking reasonably good to me, and I don't think they sort of get the love for their large silver mining. They sort of saw last week they've done about 43 million ounces this year, I think. So yeah, really solid. And the option side, as I say, Deepseek sort of gave me a bit of a battering this week. IMAX took that position down about £25,000 from sort of 60. It was probably a little bit lofty, and I did take some profit last week, so that was pretty good. I think the options are sort of sitting at $2.70 now, and I sold some at $4.80, $4.90. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that. But we'll see where it goes. Maybe I should have took more, of course. Bought a little bit more HIMAX, so almost 1,000 contracts now on them. It's bullish, of course. I'm hoping for big things over this year and next year as well. Still buying the January 2027 contracts, so we'll see. Hive and Riot sort of coming right down. Lost pretty much all of the unrealised profit I was at on Riot, but yeah, we'll have to see. Coeur Mining sort of up a little bit again, and yeah, down to 16,000 in cash. Don't have anything I'm sort of super keen to buy other than that KGHM position. So I'm just sort of, you know, dripping small amounts into some of the options, but yeah, weighing up what to spend some of this cash on. So yeah, interesting. Leave your thoughts in comments below what you guys are buying. Hoping for a good 2025, and like and subscribe. See you soon.